Welcome to a tutorial about on Twine. In this video, we're going to look at the checkbox macro as part of SugarCube 2.37. The checkbox macro allows you to present as an author to the player a choice between two different options. Now, we often pose these options as true or false, but they could also be other values. So let's look at this code. So we can choose two different things, generally true or false, but they could also be one or two or other values that are possible within SugarCube. So this allows us to do kind of three different things. We can present the option, choose between different values, and we can also set if it's checked or not. So you've probably seen checkboxes as part of other interactions within web pages, but the checkbox macro within SugarCube allows you to set this up within a story, of course within SugarCube within Twine. So let's look at this code for a second. So the checkbox macro right here is defined using the word checkbox, and it requires at least three things, but you can optionally add more. It needs to know at least, right here, the name of the variable to update in quotation marks, and then the two values with spaces between all of these. So the first value is what happens when it's not checked. The second value is what happens when it is checked. So in this case right here, false and then true. And then finally, you can see if it's checked automatically or not when the player first sees it. So we have in order the variable to update, its initial value, and then if changed in some way, what value would then be presented or set to that variable. So let's look through how this plays. So let's go ahead and build and play from here. So notice we have three different check boxes. Now this is important here. Unlike a lot of things within SugarCube, the checkbox in particular, because of the way it's implemented in HTML, doesn't have a way to put text inside of it. Instead, text goes alongside of it, not inside of it. So here's what I mean by that. Notice we have the checkbox macro right here, and then we have text following it, and when we see it, the text follows it. Now, you could choose to put the text before it, but you can't put the text inside of it, which makes it different from, say, button or other potential interactive macros within SugarCube. So keep this in mind. When arranging it, you want to make sure the checkbox is either before or after, or in some associated way with some text or information to allow a player to make an informed choice. So we have right here option 1, notice it follows. It says this is false and true, and then this last one is checked. And then when we see it, that is in fact what we see. So let's go ahead and check all three of these, option 1, option 2, and option 3. And these are correspondingly said example 1, example 2, and example 3 story variables. Come over here, if we check values, we see true, true, and true. So let's go back. Let's uncheck this and check values, and notice we get false, false, and false. Now, as mentioned, it's choosing between two values. These don't necessarily have to be false and true. So if we change this from 1 and then 2, keep in mind the first one is the default and the second one is the checked value. We can rerun this. Let's go ahead and close this tab and I'll rerun. And if we check values, we see 1. Notice it chooses whatever value is first, and then if we go back in check option 1, we get value 2. So this is an ability to choose between two values, but it is only limited to two values. So it's an incredibly useful tool in the toolbox of creating interactive user interface elements within Twine, but we do have to choose between two things because there's only kind of two different things. It's either checked or it's not. So we often use false and true, but again, of course, we can use 1 and 2 or other possible values. So the checkbox macro allows us to create these choices for players, choosing one thing or another thing, true or false, 1 or 2, or other possible values as well. And of course, then we are updating some variable. So we need some variable and then the two possible options. And of course, there is a fourth thing, we can have it pre-checked if we want for users to see something is potentially checked that they could then interact with. So Checkbox is an incredibly useful tool building on the underlying technologies on which SugarCube is based, but which we can use within SugarCube 2.37 within Twine itself. Thanks for watching.